Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times this Wednesday, October 21, 2020. For today's editorial, problems with distance learning system must be thoroughly investigated. Since the beginning of the current academic year, which began on October 5 after being delayed due to the coronavirus pandemic, there have been a multitude of complaints about errors in the learning module materials distributed to students by the Department of Education, or DepEd. Most of these have seemed fairly minor, the result of the DepEd having to create a completely new program in a very short amount of time. However, a near rebellion against the DepEd by thousands of public school teachers and administrators in Pangasinan, as reported in this paper on Monday, suggests that the shortcomings of the distance learning system are much graver than just some minor content errors and should be investigated in detail. Numerous DepEd supervisors, school principals, teachers, and other officials in the province that spoke to the Manila Times about the issue have called on President Rodrigo Duterte to sack Education Secretary Leonor Briones for mismanaging the distance learning program and materials and for rejecting calls to increase teachers' allowances. Some of the educators have even suggested that Briones' advanced age, she turned 80 on October 16, may be a factor in her seeming inability to properly carry out her duties and would under any other circumstances disqualify her from holding a cabinet post. To recall, the distance learning program, which the DepEd refers to as blended learning, was made necessary by a directive from President Duterte that physical classes in schools should not be held until a vaccine against the coronavirus becomes available. Although the decision to forego traditional classroom learning while the pandemic is still in progress has presented enormous challenges, it seems to have been the right call. The experience of other countries, such as the United States, where the pandemic has not yet been brought under control, has shown that in-person classes lead to the rapid spread of the coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19. In many places, the schools were opened only to close again within a matter of days due to a spike in COVID-19 cases. The program is a combination of online lessons and printed lesson modules, which are delivered to students' homes in order that they can complete the lessons on their own. Although the DepEd has not provided any figures, it would seem that the majority of public school students rely on the printed modules rather than video lessons, as many lack reliable internet access. According to the Pangasinan educators, there are two serious problems with the educational modules. First, some of them are said to be so riddled with errors, mistakes that are so much more serious than mere typographical or editing errors, that they are unusable. A number of teachers reportedly were told by supervisors not to use the faulty modules. Second, the expense of reproducing and distributing the printed modules has already exhausted the funds available to schools and teachers for the purpose, forcing teachers to dip into their own pockets to provide the materials for their students. To add insult to injury, the educator said Briones opposed the inclusion of additional allowance for teachers in the 2021 national budget, recently passed by the House of Representatives, depriving them of funds that could help to offset their unexpected expenses. Although these allegations are only coming from teachers in Pangasinan, it is difficult to imagine that one province is having a singular challenge in carrying out educational activities, and that educators elsewhere in the country have not experienced some of the same issues. To be clear, these are allegations. Briones' resignation or removal from her post would not be appropriate based merely on their having been made. What is appropriate, however, and in fact an absolute necessity at this point, is that a thorough investigation into the complaints raised by the teachers in Pangasinan must be conducted as soon as possible. We might suggest that, in the interest of speed, clarity, and actionable results, the investigation should not be carried out, as such inquiries usually are, by a legislative committee, but an objective body that could be convened for the purpose. Such a panel should include all relevant stakeholders: the DepEd, teachers and administrators, local government officials, parents, and even student representatives. And that's the editorial for Wednesday, October 21, 2020. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to The Voice of the Times.